Hello and welcome to Daily Politics on Trust TV. On this program, we discuss issues around politics, policy, and governance. I am Shafiu Suleiman. As controversy continues to trail flag bearer of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, filing at the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, calls for his disqualification has started to set in. The APC candidate had failed to fill the spaces meant to carry information about his primary and secondary education and failed to attach the respective certificates. He had explained in an affidavit that the documents were stolen. His failure to provide details of the document has therefore raised speculations that perhaps he has something to hide. The certificate controversy of the APC standard bearer seems not to have deterred his ambition, as he was quoted saying, "The search for his running mate is still on." We have in the studio the special advisor to the governor of Plateau State and stalwart of the APC, Honorable Sani Mudi, as well as public affairs analyst Ali M. Ali. Together, they will be joining us to discuss the certificate controversies and matters arising. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Well, it's good to be here, Shafiu.
Right. So before we commence the discussion proper, we'll take a short break. Stay with us. Thank you very much for staying with us. And that discussion now begins. Just like I said, our talking point is the certificate saga involving, the APC standard bearer, talking about Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I recall since he emerged, the presidential flag bearer of the APC, things are beginning to surface, especially with regards to those who bent at demarketing him as a candidate. Though it is not just about him, politicians have deployed strategies, to do the same, especially on the social media. So let me start with Honorable Sani Mudi. Looking at, this controversy, it is not the first time issues of certificate, are becoming prominent in our polity. Virtually in all the dispensations, you find out that there is one or two issues that have to do with certificate of the candidates. How are you looking at this current one involving, the APC flag bearer, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu?
Okay, thank you very much. Well, this latest issue on certificates, regarding the APC flag bearer, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to me is just a distraction. Everybody knows that this matter has, had been treated in the past, and of course, it's a settled matter as far as the laws of the land are concerned, because there was a ruling up to the Supreme Court in which an issue like that was, settled by the court. And of course, looking at it basically, what are the constitutional requirements for contesting election in this country? Starting from the minimum requirements of primary or secondary school certificate or its equivalent. That's what the Constitution says. And then, of course, going further, the law states also that, or anything acceptable to INEC, in which case it was interpreted to mean primary school certificate with 15 years post-qualification experience. So, to whoever is cares to look at it, the fact is that Asiwaju Bola Tinubu has met all the constitutional requirements for contesting for election, and I think it's high time Nigeria look at this issue of certificate in terms of contestation for offices. Not only contestation for offices, and other claims, people, that coming for positions or seeking for positions, not only elective, but even appointments into office, are just tested based on their competence. When they are found competent to do a job, they are given a job. Nobody cares to ask you, what are your certificates?
Okay, talking about, I mean, taking from where he stopped, you know, to him, it is a settled matter. But to those who are the opponents of the candidate and, of course, the APC as a political party, it is an ongoing matter. Yes, it has gone to Supreme Court at the point during the late Gani Faimi, who pursued the matter up to Supreme Court level. And the basis for the judgment at that point was, of course, the fact that he is a sitting governor. So he was disqualified based on technicalities. The substantive matter hasn't been heard. I don't know if you've been following, you followed that. Then two, some say the reason behind, you know, the reappearance of this issue was the fact that during his first submission to INEC, he did mention the schools he attended, the primary school and the secondary schools he attended. But in this current form, you know, those two institutions are missing. Perhaps some say this is what is the bone of contention in this. I don't know how you're looking at it, you know. Is it right for those who bring the matter up now to do so, or is it settled, as he said?
Well, you know, politicians, politicians are masters of doublespeak. And in politics, like we all know, you cannot die. You have to be killed. And you cannot trip and fall unless there is a booby trap somewhere and then you fell into it. So in political lingo, they are all winners, no losers. So now, you see the gap why perhaps Tinubu is in, and his supporters, and indeed the APC, is in this dilemma, is because he's been caught literally, so to speak, pants down in doublespeak. One instance, he claimed to have attended, and in this instance, to play it safe, because that bubble was burst long time ago. And I remember when it happened in 2000 or thereabout, or 2001. Yes, there was this back and forth that actually somebody filled in the form.
Yeah, on his behalf.
On his behalf.
Yeah,
and I think Afikiomi was fingered as the culprit. But since then, and I know for years, even the Chicago, what was later termed as Chicago Gate.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Chicago issue.
Yes,
because even that, there are also back and forth. There are
precisely back and forth. Exactly.
Say.
Yes, but you see, the explanation here, because look, the man is aspiring to occupy the highest office in the land. And with that, we expect people of unimpeachable moral character, credentials to occupy that exalted office. Now, it's not even about him. You expect that Bola Tinubu being, if you like, the political colossus that he is, he's about the only politician right now in this country who has his tentacles spread all over, who would set agenda in far-flung places, as far away as perhaps Kanu and Kebbi, and if you like, even Borno. No politician from the Southwest, since Nigeria's attempt at representative democracy, has had this enormous influence. So you expect that a lot of his past will be dug, it will be laid bare, and then people would take uncharitable shots at his reputation.
Yeah, so some would say that is synonymous with anyone who joined politics. Of course, you should expect
yes, it comes with the territory.
Your past,
it comes with the territory.
Yeah, would have to be a public issue.
Exactly.
Whatever you've done in the past would have to be, and because your opponents will dig down and make sure they get something.
Absolutely.
To okay. Now looking at this scenario, at some point he said, he attended Government College, Lagos, at the St. Paul's, primary school. And then in this current forms, is telling INEC that yes, at some point he went on exile, and of course his house was searched, and then the documents carted away by unknown persons and all of that. But the concern is, why didn't he mention, I mean, those schools that he attended? Some are even hesitant to say that they can help go search for those schools that they did with the Chicago University.
Okay, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. I want to agree with what my brother said, that some people will want to take some uncharitable shots at him. Of course, it is the moment for those kind of things. And since he's contesting for the highest office in the land, of course, it's expected that he should display the highest form of moral, rectitude. Now, but be that as it may be the case, the fact is that as far as what is the use of a certificate? It's just to prove that you are educated, you are competent, you have the capacity to do something. And I believe, going through his antecedents, his pedigree, it is no doubt that it's been proven beyond any reasonable doubt that Bola Ahmed Tinubu is eminently qualified and competent to contest for the office of the president of this country. The issue of presentation of certificate or mention of schools notwithstanding, but the fact is that, as I said earlier, it's just a distraction. What has the candidate got to offer?
Okay, before we talk about the competence,
yes.
Of course they should be subject to scrutiny by the Nigerian public, especially when it comes to matters like this. Beyond just the moral, issues, it also springs up issues of criminality, because some are beginning to, look at possible perjury or something. If you present, double documents, or you fail to submit particular document and you claim you have, this constitutes some level of, I don't know how you're looking at it. It's just beyond competence or beyond qualification.
But you cannot force it on him. The fact is that the law will not accuse him for what he has not done. Because that he has not presented his certificate doesn't mean that he hasn't been educated up to that level that is required by the law.
But in a situation whereby he presented earlier, and subsequently he said, he doesn't have, for instance, some will be, that's what brought about this suspicion. Why? What is he hiding?
Who can produce those ones that were alleged to have been produced earlier on? You said it, that it was said that one Tokumbo Afrikwemi filled the forms for him.
On his behalf, yeah.
Filling the form is different from attaching other documents. Was there any evidence to show that documents were attached in the first place, in the earlier one that has been mentioned?
But if these institutions were established, perhaps they are known. And in this case, the candidate is telling INEC that, well, they've been stolen or they've been taken away. And then he left the space blank. The expectation is that, okay, you've attended primary school. There should be a primary certificate attached to it. Even perhaps the position you got in class. You've attended secondary school. Even if the certificate is stolen, you can say, like I've seen that of Atiku Abubakar or so, with SSCE or so. So you should be able to say, this is the certificate you obtained. But in this case, it was left blank. Shouldn't that spark suspicion?
I don't think it should spark any suspicion. As far as my own understanding of it is, and I believe many people do see it the same way. The whole thing is that Asuaji Tinubu has met the requirements of the law. And the issue of whatever about his certificate or whatever, let's leave it at the stage of, at the level of speculation. You cannot ascribe to him what he has not, admitted by himself.
Hello and welcome to Daily Politics on Trust TV. On this program, we discuss issues around politics, policy, and governance. I am Shafiu Suleiman. The outgoing Chief Justice of Nigeria, Muhammad Tanko, was sworn in on January 23, 2019, following an executive order of the Court of Conduct Tribunal, which suspended former Chief Justice Walter Onnoghen from office on grounds of false declaration of assets. On July 17, 2019, it was confirmed by the Senate as the substantive Chief Justice of Nigeria and subsequently sworn in by President Muhammadu Buhari. 3 years down the line, Tanko will resign on grounds of ill health. Many are, however, of the opinion that the jurist's resignation is not unconnected to a protest letter written and signed by 14 justices of the Supreme Court, which accused Tanko of mismanagement. Few hours after his resignation, Justice Olukayode Areola, the most senior judge in the Supreme Court, was sworn in acting capacity by the President. Take a look.
The nation woke up to reports on Monday morning that Justice Tanko Muhammad had resigned from his position as Chief Justice of Nigeria on health grounds. After some initial doubts, the former CJN Special Assistant on Media, Ahuraka Issa, confirmed the development. The mantle has fallen swiftly on Justice Olukayode Areola, who is the next most senior judge. Justice Areola was later sworn in the afternoon as acting Chief Justice of Nigeria by President Muhammadu Buhari, who applauded the Nigerian judiciary under the leadership of the former CJN.
CJN Tanko dealt firmly with the issue of reckless and the indiscriminate grant of ex parte orders that was assuming serious dimensions. History will be kind to Justice Tanko Muhammad for his modest contributions to Nigeria's judiciary, the strengthening of our democracy, and national development.
He also hints of the challenges ahead.
Our nation is approaching a critical general election in 2023. The judiciary must not do anything to fail the ordinary people of Nigeria, which may make them lose confidence in the judiciary.
The new acting Chief Justice is aware of the huge responsibilities he has to bear.
What Nigerians expect from me is to comply, preserve and abide and protect the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
But he is quick to dismiss speculations that the former Chief Justice of Nigeria resigned because of controversy in the judiciary.
It was an internal memo of the court. It was not a petition. It was not a letter. It was addressed by the brother justices of the Chief Justice and presented to him, his lordship, directly. There were issues to be resolved amongst justices. Yeah, we've started resolving it.
Justice Areola was born on August 22, 1958, and was appointed a Justice of the Supreme Court of Nigeria in 2011. He was a Justice of the Court of Appeal between 2005 and 2011, after having elevated from the State High Court of Oyo State. Justice Areola was first appointed a Judge of Superior Court of Record in Oyo State in 1992 from private legal practice. Before his elevation to the Supreme Court, he served as Justice of the Court of Appeal in Kaduna, Enugu, and Lagos divisions. From State House, Abuja, Kehinde Amudu, Trust TV News.
We're now joined by Barrister Abdulhamid Mohammed, a senior advocate of Nigeria, as well as Barrister Dare Olabi, to discuss the issues surrounding the judiciary, as well as Justice Tanko's resignation as Chief Justice of Nigeria. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you for
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening.
Right. Let me start with Abdulhamid.
Yes, please.
You know, the development is quite, unprecedented and unique. The sudden resignation of the former CJN.
Yes.
And of course, the issues surrounding, the resignation itself.
Yes.
Let me get your initial thoughts, when you see, the announcement, or the statement made with regards to his resignation.
Yes, like you said, it's unprecedented in the sense that it has never happened to my memory in the history of the Supreme Court. For a serving Chief Justice of Nigeria to have some perceived prejudice, because from my own humble opinion, this issue of the letter which is being addressed is from the caption of the letter, which has been in circulation, is that it's the state of affairs of the Supreme Court, which run through the issue of the welfare of justices, to do as petty as issue of diesel, as petty as subscription of some services to do with internet services. You know, there are issues that are being addressed, but the whole issue about it is the welfare of these justices, to do with their transportation, to do with their accommodation. Now, it has never happened. And then when it happened, actually, suddenly, the Chief Justice of Nigeria now presented his resignation letter on the issue of ill health. But to me, from my opinion, perhaps it's not really issue of ill health that must have occasion that. Perhaps maybe the letter being addressed you know, on the state of affairs of the Supreme Court, which has not been addressed, and then which, if that happened, actually, you know, it sent a signal to the office of the Chief Justice of Nigeria that that issues are going wrong, and then it comes, perhaps it coincided with him being ill, and then he presented his letter of resignation to the president.
Well, no, the issue of ill health, it didn't start now. Some say he has been ill in the last 9 months or so. He's been managing his health with the pressure of the work, you know, on him and what have you. But then, notwithstanding the fact that it is coincided with this letter, you know, talking about mismanagement and what have you, do you see the combination of these factors leading to the former CJN, you know, quitting his position?
I will answer the question in affirmative.
Okay. Why?
Which means yes. First and foremost, if the former CJN says his health is bad, I will be compelled to believe him because he owns his body. Yeah. However, I've read comments on print media and electronic media and other social media saying that it is unprecedented. I don't think I would like to agree with that.
But we have never had such a scenario in Nigeria's history.
I'm a student of history. I think I will advise that we check the circumstances that led to the exit of Justice Elias from the Supreme Court in 1975.
Are there similar circumstances?
Yes, sir. He was accused of bias in a case he presided over. If you have the time, I can give you the fact of the case.
But in this case,
it was accused.
Tanko, you know, based his resignation on health grounds. So we are not talking about. He's not talking about the allegations or the petition. He's talking about his personal health.
The government communication to Nigerians, as at the time Justice Elias left in 1975, was not that he fouled any law. It was that he was going for an higher responsibility, which was an appointment in Hague.
Yeah, but they are not similar. That's what I'm talking about.
But it is similar. But what led to his removal from that seat was because he assisted an uncle sponsoring me in school.
But in this case, we're not talking about removal. We're talking about resignation on voluntarily, you know, voluntary resignation.
Okay, now let's look at it from this angle. There is no letter go from anywhere to Elias saying that he should exit the office. He voluntarily resigned from that office, haven't been shown the volume of evidence against him, on the petition written against him. He voluntarily resigned. And because of his contribution to the development of law in Nigeria, the Murtala Obasanjo regime at that point in time decided to send him to Hague.
Okay, I'm coming back to Lamid.
So it's not unprecedented.
You know, yes, he is alluding to the fact that there might be much that pass, under the pipe and so on. It is not just about the ill health. Perhaps he mentioned ill health, perhaps to cover. That's if I understand your position.
Very
but
well.
The real issues are
Very well.
those
Very well.
lines of the petitions, especially those involved. I mean, alleging mismanagement or so.
Yes. Yes, you see, I still maintain my position is quite unprecedented. And why I say that in a number of reasons are that we have not seen in my memory, spanning almost 30 years in practice, seen, a situation whereby justices of the Supreme Court will have a unity of purpose, almost about 14 or 13 of them, now to address a letter. Perhaps there could be issues being agitated even among them. And that issue perhaps has not been addressed. And now we have seen a letter written, to the Chief Justice of Nigeria, telling him that, look, this is our agitation. And then a committee has to be constituted,
right.
Because of that agitation, which perhaps is real. Perhaps it's not just an issue that could be gone with the wave of the hand. A committee was constituted, and the committee now promised to look at those issues. And then immediately that is done in a very few days, and then the Chief Justice of Nigeria now, decided to tender his resignation on the issue of ill health. But to me, it was all humility. My own opinion, which I still strongly hold, is that there could be both the agitation that has been mounting and perhaps the pressure of those justices and that of the ill health. And perhaps maybe because of the letter, which has addressed so fundamental issues in it, that maybe must have, caused some ill health if he has an underlying ill health, and that must have deteriorated the issue, into saying that, look, it's better for me to leave this job. Maybe somebody else, can perform better than me.
Yeah, or perhaps, thinking that the leaving the scene would douse the tension.
Yes.
But it's far from over. Anyway, we'll talk about that later.
Yes.
But let's look at the critical issues.
Yes.
The issues contained in that petition.
Yes.
And his response. I've also read his response.
Yes.
Through his, is it media aid or his personal aid or so?
Yes.
He did mention that all the issues raised by the senior justices, was actually being addressed.
Yes.
He also talked about, the paucity of funds, which led to the slowdown of some of the interventions and what have you.
Yes.
If there is any pressure, and of course there is also a response,
yes,
you think that would warrant him quitting his job just like that?
Yes. You see, first I will just have to. The impression being created about that letter is, even the acting CJN has said it's not a petition. I heard him say that.
Memo, anyway.
He said it's an internal memo stating the affairs, the current affairs of the Supreme Court, which the fundamental issues being addressed in the petition or in the letter is certainly issue of welfare of justices. Yes. And then I have read through it, and I have discovered there's a reaction by the office of the CJN in respect of that, and he said that issues are going to be addressed, and a committee has been constituted.
That part of them have already been addressed.
Has been addressed, and then in addition, paucity of fund. Well, this issue of paucity of fund, to me, is that every year there should be a budget of the Supreme Court, as an entity, or to the National Judicial Council.
Hello and welcome to Daily Politics on Trust TV. On this program, we discuss issues around politics, policy, and governance. I am Shafiu Suleiman. Amid criticisms over his call for residents to arm themselves in defense against bandits, Zamfara State Governor Bello Mutawalle has signed into law a bill for the prohibition and punishment for banditry, cattle rustling, cultism, kidnapping, terrorism, and other incidental offenses. The bill is aimed at providing a framework for the prosecution of persons engaged in the act of banditry, kidnapping, cattle rustling, and other related crimes. Matawale had explained that his directives for citizens to obtain firearms against bandits is to assist security agencies in addressing the menace. However, some security experts are expressing reservation over the move, with the Chief of Defense Staff General Lucky Rabo reminding the governor he lacks the requisite powers to direct the State Police Commissioner to issue such licenses. What are the implications of the Zamfara State government's directive on the overall safety of the citizens? Could there be alternatives to this decision? What impact would it make in dealing with rampaging banditry and terrorism in the state? These and many more will form the basis of our conversation. And joining us to engage the issues are Stephen Okori, a security expert. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Also joining us for the discussion is our in-house analyst, Kainde Modu. Thank you for joining us.
Always glad to be here.
And via Skype, we hope to be joined by Ibrahim Dosara, who happens to be the Commissioner of Information in Zamfara State. Incidentally, he also signed that press release or communication conveying the message of the governor with regards to the call to arm, against banditry. Now, let's take a quick break. When we return, the conversation commences. Thank you very much for joining us. And now the conversation begins. And I'll go straight to Mr. Stephen, looking at the situation in Zamfara and by extension, some northwestern states, the rampaging banditry, now full-blown terrorism, some say. Zamfara happened to be, is being considered as an epicenter of this challenge. A number of communities have been sacked by these bandits or terrorists. Farming communities are made to pay levies and what have you. A number of citizens, have been displaced. And of course, the killing continues. Now the state government seems to be on the edge, and it has to come up with a very, very drastic measure, talking about arming the citizens. What does it, how does it sound to you? You hear a governor who is the chief security officer of a state whose primary responsibility is to protect lives and property, telling citizens to acquire arms and protect themselves.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me to share my view on the topic. I want to start by saying that the governor came to power and inherited all these challenges we just listed here. And he has tried his best to see how to go by way of application of force and the other means of not applying force. Where we saw where he tried to see how to grant amnesty, tried to see how to dialogue with leaders of these bandits and terrorist groups, tried to see how to reconcile with them, and so far those efforts are not yielding results at all. Rather than a decrease in the situation, we are seeing an uprise, And I want to say that as a chief security officer of the state, permit me to use the word that the man is so frustrated as we speak, see your citizens that you are supposed to be protecting dying like chickens, So I think he has tried to see how to derive a different means or approach to it now by trying to come up with a law, at least to guide what he's trying to do. I want to say further that it is not a bad suggestion. That's my own view, But I want to differ from individuals owning these guns or ammunitions. I want to see that it should be group of people. For instance, if you want to bring the vigilante group of people on board, it should be assigned to group of individuals.
Perhaps that can be easily monitored.
That can be easily
where regulation can also be applied.
Exactly. You know, where they will have a leader, a deputy leader, and all that. Where you see a structure, you know, on ground in all these communities that are in Zamfara. You know, by the time you assign these guns to them, they'll be marked. You know. They will be marked where it can be easily be traced. You know that XYZ community has this kind of guns and they are marked. If they transfer those guns to another community, you'll be able to trace that they've been moved to another community. You know, because vigilante groups are supposed to protect their own communities, not going outside their own community for protection.
Right. Okay. If I understand the logic, perhaps you know why the governor has to call on the citizens to arm themselves. Looking at the nature of the attacks by these bandits or terrorists, you know, they go into communities indiscriminately, these farming communities and what have you, and unannounced, you know, because of the vulnerability and of course the nature of the space there. A number of, a situation more like an ungoverned space, so to speak, to find people living in distant villages and so on. And then perhaps that's the reason why the governor is looking at the citizens arming themselves, because they are the direct, you know, target of these bandits. But the implication, just like he said, is perhaps that of control and regulation. But before we get to that, even the responsibility of granting licensing, you know, licenses to gun owners. Some would say it's beyond the governor because it has to do with the state commissioner of police, whatever. And then it also had to be with the approval, perhaps, of the IG and so on. But in issuing a directive to a commissioner of police, who is not under the state government's, you know, control, how does this sound to you?
The implications is what I'm looking at. Nigeria is one of the countries in the West African sub-region that is beset with this problem of proliferation of small arms and light weapons. And despite the efforts to, you know, control the flow of these weapons in the sub-region, there hasn't really been much success. And that is because, and that's because the flow is fueled by conflict in countries like in Mali, like in the Central African Republic, like, you know, along that corridor, there has been a proliferation of small arms and light weapons, starting from the conflict in Liberia and the conflict in Sierra Leone.
Libya as well.
Libya as well. So, getting a control of arms crossing the border is difficult as it is. To now license people to carry arms will probably turn the whole region into the wild, wild west as we know it. How do you control? Well, the weapons are issued for military and protection purposes. But how do you control the use of weapons in civil engagements? Because, you know, one thing about power is that it corrupts and corrupts absolutely. So you already have incidents of people, killings rising that don't even involve guns and AK-47s and all those caliber of weapons.
Yeah, but it's some sort of limitation. I think the governor is targeting, or the government is targeting people who are qualified, people who, who deserve such licenses.
How do you define?
That's the bottom line. What are the yardsticks to determine who actually
determine? Who's going to determine? It's not a bad idea if you can control, but you know it might result in things going more out of hand. What we had What the President of the Federal Republic signed about 2 years ago was a national security strategy that would take care of security from bottom up, starting from the communities, that there had to be a linkage all the way through. That has not been implemented. So what we have in the country is policies that are rolled out, and then there's a difficulty in implementing them, because if that strategy had been implemented the way it should have been implemented, there should have been a drastic reduction in penetration into communities.
But then beyond the strategy and the national security, national defense or security policy that we talked about, one fundamental reason behind this action, some will say, is the limitation, or rather the paucity of manpower, the personnel, the boots on ground. Security personnel are grossly inadequate to reach out to these communities who are being ravaged by this. And of course, we all know that there are also issues around logistics, communication logistics, movement, transportation logistics and what have you for the security agencies. Is it, some are beginning to even look at this decision by the Zamfara state government as sort of, a vote of no confidence on the security agencies. Perhaps it has reached a point of complete failure. Do you see it as such?
Obviously, I would say that it has gotten to that. I'm going to talk or speak from a professional angle. It has come to the level that citizens have passed a vote of no confidence on the security agencies. I think that if you ask me, they are trying their best, but their best is still not good enough, because we cannot see or keep seeing people being killed on daily basis. It's happening on daily basis. People are being kidnapped on daily basis.
It has become a new normal.
Yes. So, for me, we are trying to look at some sort of solutions beyond what the government is doing.
Hello and welcome to Daily Politics on Trust TV. Now on this program, we discuss issues around politics, policy and governance. I am Ibrahim Yusuf. Now the 2023 general election is less than 10 months away. And as preparations are in top gear, Nigerians are hopeful that the general election will usher in a new government which will address most of the challenges the country and its citizens are contending with. From insecurity to education, infrastructure and economy, Nigerians have had to cope with harsh realities in the last few years. Now, with an updated electoral law, improved voter education, among other new strategies, citizens seem to be optimistic as the 2023 election is expected to set a new election standard. And to discuss these issues, we are joined by the flag bearer of the People's Redemption Party and son of the winner of the June 12, 1993 presidential election, Kola Abiola.
Thank you.
So we'll now take a break, and after which the conversation commences. Stay with us. Welcome back. This is Daily Politics on Trust TV. Now let's get down to the discussion proper. I'll be remiss if I don't start with this question.
Please.
June 12, 1993.
Right.
One of the most free and fair election that we probably had in Nigeria. And there were lots of issues back then. And your father, who was the winner of that particular election, made promises to deal with some of those issues. He probably had a plan for the country at that particular point in time. Looking at the problems that were there at that particular point in 1993 and looking at Nigeria now, do you believe that some of those problems still transcend that period up until now?
I think they do. First of all, Ibrahim, thanks for having me on Trust TV. But yes, they do. They just don't still exist, but they are further aggravated, and you've added a lot more additional problems. In 1993, power was bad. Today, power is worse. Sectorial fighting, killings were there, but now it's actually a catastrophe. Inflation is at its worst. The out-of-job rate is at its highest. We have over 20 million kids out of school today. We have bad infrastructure. We have bad governance. Corruption is at its almost at its highest. So tell me whether it's changed or not. No, it's even just gotten bad and added a lot more additional problems. In 1993, we didn't have Boko Haram. We didn't have bandits. We didn't have IPOB. We didn't have Yoruba Nation agitation. We didn't have, because in 1993, MKO represented Nigeria. He was seen as a true Nigerian. And despite the fact that we even ran under a Muslim ticket.
Exactly.
So that still further united Nigeria. It didn't divide. But such a thing would divide us down the middle to date. So it's gotten worse. And we certainly have a job cut out in 2023. There's a lot of corrections to be done and a lot of thinking out of the box to resolve a lot of these conflicts.
All right. So between 1993 and now,
right,
we've had some elections that have taken place, and governments have changed, and all that, and a lot of discontent has grown out of most of those elections that actually happened because of procedure and processes and results at the end of the day.
Yeah.
We have a new electoral law now, which seeks to make things better, for us to have a better electoral process, which will have a better result, and then the post-election, because mostly these things happen post-election. That's when people start contesting results here and there. So with the new electoral act, the new electoral law, do you think we will have less of these issues, the current electoral law?
I think first it's all about the determination and the will to conduct true elections. The elections we've had in the past has systematically alienated the voter.
Okay.
The voter hasn't counted much. A lot of our youth, the younger demographics, have always complained that they were never inclusive of the process. And even when they try to vote, their votes don't count. I have been an advocate in the last 2 years to drum up the fact that without that youth, we will not be able to change the electoral process in Nigeria. And thank God, to date, we're all fully aware there's a huge drive to register. And I suspect and I believe that the 2023 election will have the highest voter turnout in the history of Nigeria. It'll have the highest youth demographic voter we've ever seen in the history of Nigeria. But that also has its own problems also. It's not a golden solution. There are still problems to do with the fact that, yes, there's an estimated 15 million additional new voters in there. But really, INEC says about 8. So what does that mean? You have a lot of online registration, but you still have to go into the registration centers to complete the process, to take your biometrics and things like that. So without doing that, you're still going to be not be able to vote. So we have to get the word out there that yes, it's one thing going online, but really to complete the process, you have to go into the centers to complete that. Secondly, a lot of these first-time voters are going to be students. We've had strikes in the last 1 year. We've had children in and out of school in the last, like forever now. Now what happens to those guys who have registered back, they've been at home, they've registered today, and they call them back to school? Is there a way that INEC would accommodate them to allow them to just go online and change their voter center or their polling address? Or the new VBAS, I think it's called.
BVAS, yeah.
BVAS system. Do you really need a card for that? Once your data is on there, would you be allowed to vote once you get your biometrics in and your pictures show and things like that? So that's something that they need to really look at to make sure that they're not disenfranchised from the elections.
So going by your analysis now, just what you've said, the youth are going to play a major role
Very
when
major
it comes
role.
to 2023.
Without them, we won't change the politics in Nigeria. Without them, I've always been an advocate, and that's one of the key reasons why I'm in PRP, is to get inclusion, get as many of our youth involved in politics, not just to vote, but actually run for office. We're one of the only, we're actually the only party that you can actually register online for 100 naira. We're the only party that you can register today and run for office the following day. We're probably the only party that it costs you 100,000 naira to just run for state assembly, 1.6 million to run for governor. That is in catering for the next wave of leadership. My role in this election and this party, and the party's role, is to be a bridge between the next generation, bringing them into governance, politics, and leadership. And I think we will do that effectively well in this party.
All right. Well, since you've opened the door to discuss parties, general analysis. When you listen to general analysis of the 2023 elections, the major projections, a lot of people are talking about, they say there are three major political parties or three major political forces. You have the ruling party, you have the major opposition, the PDP, and then you have the Labour Party. What is your take on that? How do you think
Labour Party,
the PRP can actually factor into that?
I can see you're the internet generation age. That's probably why. PRP is the oldest party in Nigeria to date.
Yes.
It's been around from 1978, thereabouts. It's an extension of NAPU. Number one. Number two, we're in every local government in this country. That's why we had 3,625 delegates. Every local government. In this election alone, of the 30 gubernatorial elections available, we're fielding in 25 of those. We have in excess of 600 candidates across all elective offices. We have a voter base that is very loyal, and not just loyal, but they've over the years sustained their membership and the growth of the party. Yes, if you go by a lot of the internet noise and that, maybe you could talk about Labour, but Labour doesn't have the kind of reach and backbone we have. And yeah, I've heard a lot of people say, Kola, we don't hear about you there. But you see, you must understand when you're coming into, I'm new to the party. You have to understand the party you come into and understand that it is conservative, quite all right, but also you need to play and understand the loyalty of the membership. As far as appealing to the membership nationwide, we've done that very, very well. We won our primaries with 2,600 of those votes. We won that primaries. We only lost 4 states in that primary. So I have done that bit of it. The next phase of it, you will see a different PRP. You will see a more modern PRP in this approach. And we've been all over the country. We continue to do that. while we are there, we're looking at making sure that our membership and our candidates feel it part of a bigger party. So a lot of what we have done is to deal with the local press, the local radio stations, just to give them that prominence prior to when we can launch our own presidential campaign officially in September. But before that, you'll see quite a lot of things. We have a new blitz from the on PRP. We have this campaign called The Keys Back.
Okay.
Coming up about the party. We will show Nigerians the richness of this party and its history. We also we're going to launch a lot of the internet bit of it. And you see a lot of
because I think
it's a long haul.
Yeah, because
it's a long haul. So I think we pace it to make sure we can sustain it to the end.
Yeah, I think what most people actually look when they hear the PRP, they look at this old generation kind of party that hasn't actually kept up with the modern times. I think.
Well, modern times, but we're the only one that can register online. I don't know how modern you get besides that. That's number one. Number two, we have the youngest exco in any party today. The youngest exco, state excos. And we will probably have to be fielding the youngest candidates. In this 20 states, we're going to be fielding governors, for example. We're going to be fielding, probably the youngest candidates in this. So it is a party for the future. It's a party for the next generation. We're leading by example. And because of that, we have the energy to go around, not make noise, but go around to grassroots, because it's a very grassroots-based party. We're going local government to local government. We're going ward to ward. We have in Kano, for example, they go around all the local governments. Same in Katsina, Taraba, Adama. We're there, but we're doing it our own way first, and then we can play because it's a long haul. It's a long campaign.